Meeting started at 1 a.m. and has been going through the entire night, morning, and now day. We're considering one of the most harmful bills to ever come before the House, cutting health care from 14 million Americans, taking food from the mouths of hungry children, seniors, and veterans. My Republican colleagues were hoping that my Democratic colleagues and I would sleep through the night as the American people slept. But what's done in the dark, y'all, comes to the light, and I'm here to shed the light. That's why I stayed up all night, and that's why I'm here right now as the voice of Georgia's fighting 5th Congressional District. I follow in the footsteps of the late Congressman John Lewis, known as the conscience of the Congress. And if there's anything Republicans need more of these days, it's a conscience. Because who with a conscience would rip health care away from 14 million people in this country? Who with a conscience would make the largest cut in history to food benefits for children, seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities? Who with a conscience would add $5 trillion to the deficit with nothing to show for it but billionaire tax cuts? No one with a conscience would do any of that, but that's exactly what this Republican so-called one big beautiful bill would do. Congressman John Lewis would be ashamed of y'all. I know that I am. But you know what? He'd be proud of his Democratic colleagues for making the good trouble by unleashing that on behalf of the American people. House Democrats wrote 537 amendments to your so-called one big beautiful bill. Just because Republicans aren't willing to change their bill to actually help the American people, it definitely won't stop us from offering these amendments because we know that it doesn't have to be this way. I have 16 amendments myself. One, to invest in programs to increase our housing supply and lower housing costs. Another, to stop taxpayer funding for anti-abortion clinics that spread disinformation about women's health care. Another, to stop Trump from cutting essential federal workers without at least getting a report from Congress on how it'll harm government services. Another, to stop Trump from profiting off funding for presidential security. An additional one, to increase nutrition benefits and eligibility for students. Another, to require reports on how the policies in this bill affect low-income individuals and racial inequities. Another, to stop January 6th insurrectionists from getting a settlement from the federal government for their crimes. And yet another, to ensure that members of Congress can continue conducting lawful oversight in ICE facilities. Another one, to make maternal medical care, menstrual products, and broadband costs covered expenses for determining people's eligibility for food assistance. Another, to stop Elon Musk from selling the federal government AI systems while he's employed by our federal government. And yet another, to stop any funds in this bill from being used to unconstitutionally remove a United States citizen from this country. Another, to require the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to remain independent of whoever is president, Democratic or Republican. And yet another, to keep the funding for sustainable aviation fuel, which supports our aviation industry to be cleaner and more environmentally friendly. If my Republican colleagues really want to do right by the American people, you'd approve all of these amendments. I can't fix everything in this horrible bill, even with the 16 amendments that I'm offering, but these would definitely be a start. And next time, maybe open up this big, beautiful bill to some big, beautiful debate in the light of day. Because it doesn't matter what your ideas are if you can't defend them in broad daylight for the American people. You must be hiding something from the American people. The children, seniors, and veterans in my district that will lose health care and SNAP benefits, y'all, they are more than a line item in a budget. They are real people simply trying to survive. So don't turn your back on them to give tax cuts to billionaires. I yield back.